All right, good afternoon. I think you will have seen, because I think some of the ambassadors already made the news, but I will share it with you nonetheless. Given the scale of the loss of human life in Gaza and in Israel in such a short amount of time, the Secretary General has today delivered a letter to the President of the Security Council invoking Article 99 of the Charter of the United Nations. This is the first time that Antonio Guterres has done this since he became Secretary General in 2017. Article 99 states, and I quote, that the Secretary General may bring to the attention of the Security Council any matter in his opinion that may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. In the letter, which has been shared with you, the Secretary General urges the members of the Security Council to press to avert a humanitarian catastrophe, and he appeals for a humanitarian ceasefire to be declared. Just to go a bit more detail with you on the situation in Gaza, our friends at the World Food Program, in a statement issued earlier today, have said that the renewed fighting in Gaza makes a distribution of aid almost impossible and endangers the lives of humanitarian workers. Only a lasting peace can end the suffering and avert a looming humanitarian crisis, they say. The ability of the United Nations to receive incoming loads of aid has been significantly impaired over the past 3 days by several factors. This includes a shortage of trucks within Gaza, the telecommunications blackout on December 4th, and the increasing number of staff who were unable to report to the Rafah crossing due to the ongoing hostilities. Yesterday, for the third consecutive day, Rafah was the only governorate in Gaza where limited aid distribution took place. In the adjacent Khan Yunis governorate, aid distribution has largely stopped due to the intensity of the fighting. And I have a couple of senior personnel appointments, both related to UNRWA, the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East. Today, the Secretary General is appointing Nathalie Boucli of France as the Deputy Commissioner General for Programs and Partnerships for UNRWA. She succeeds Lenny Stenseth of Norway, to whom the Secretary General expresses his appreciation for her service and commitment to the organization. Currently, Nathalie is the acting Deputy Commissioner General of UNRWA. She brings to the position 25 years of international experience, in addition to substantive field experience in sensitive conflict and post-conflict settings, with a particular focus on governance, crisis response, and elections. Also being appointed today by the Secretary General is Antonia Marie de Mello of the United States. She is becoming Deputy Commissioner General for Operational Support. She's currently the director of the UN Crime and Justice Research Institute. Ms. de Mello brings to the position nearly 25 years of experience in executive leadership, strategic planning, representation, resource mobilization, and all aspects of operational oversight in humanitarian, conflict recovery, and development context, and we congratulate them both. Back here this morning, the Secretary General addressed the high-level pledging event for the Central Emergency Response Fund. He said that nearly year after year, the Response Fund demonstrates a unique and irreplaceable role by getting funding quickly to the people that in crisis. For example, the Secretary General said that in April, SURF, as the fund is widely known, made funding available to help millions of people caught up in the brutal fighting in Sudan. In October, SURF quickly channeled funds to our humanitarian agencies in Gaza. Beyond the immediate crisis, the Emergency Response Fund funding is also helping to counter long-term trends from research on food insecurity and humanitarian impact of the climate crisis. Mr. Guterres called for more donors to step up and expand the donor base. He also called for financial commitments that match the scale of needs, reiterating that we need to meet $1 billion funding target agreed 7 years ago. The pledging conference is still underway, and our colleagues in the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs will be tallying up and counting up the final pledges by the end of the day. I have been asked on a number of occasions by a number of you on the situation between Venezuela and Guyana, and I can tell you that the Secretary General strongly supports the use of solely peaceful means to settle international disputes. He further recalls that pursuant to the Charter and to the status of the International Court of Justice, decisions of the court are binding, and he trusts that both states will duly comply with the order from the court. The Secretary General recalls the order of the International Court of Justice issued on December 1st, 2023, indicating a provisional measures in the case of Guyana against Venezuela concerning arbitral award of 3rd October 1999. The Secretary General notes that the court's unanimous decision to order Venezuela to, quote, refrain from taking any action that would modify the situation that currently prevails in the territory in dispute, end quote. The Secretary General also notes that the court's order to both parties to refrain from any action which might aggravate or extend the dispute or make it more difficult to resolve. In accordance with the statute of the court, the Secretary General transmitted the notice of the provisional measures ordered by the court to the Security Council. And also related to Venezuela, this morning the International Organization for Migration and the UN Refugee Agency launched a $1.59 billion regional plan to support the needs of refugees and migrants from Venezuela, as well as the host communities across 17 Latin American and Latin American and the Caribbean countries. The number of refugees and migrants from Venezuela worldwide has now topped 7.7 million people, with the vast majority hosted by countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. The 2024 response plan aims to respond to 3 million refugees and migrants from Venezuela and host communities with emergency needs, while supporting socioeconomic integration that will allow them to resume their lives. And back here this morning, the Security Council met on the maintenance of peace and security of Ukraine. Briefing council members was Miroslav Yencha, the Assistant Secretary General for Central Asia, Europe, and the Americas in the Department of Political and Peace Building Affairs. He noted that intensifying Russian attacks on Ukraine's energy facilities amidst heavy snow and freezing temperatures are worsening the dire humanitarian situation across the country. Mr. Yencha also noted that despite reports of increasing shipments in the Black Sea, the war continues to pose a significant risk to civilian navigation and to Ukraine's grain export capacity. The Director of Coordination from OCHA, Ramesh Rajasingham, also briefed saying that so far in 2023, almost 560 humanitarian partners, the vast majority are local partners, have provided life-critical aid and protection services to more than 10 million people in Ukraine. He stressed that as we come to an end of the year and enter 2024, we must redouble of efforts to prevent further escalation in Ukraine. And just to note from the ground that OCHA tells us that there was an attack yesterday in the city of Kherson in the south of the country, which destroyed the local NGO's humanitarian warehouse. That humanitarian center had been providing vital assistance to tens of thousands of residents of Kherson City and the region, whose needs have increased in the winter weather, and the warehouse was completely burnt down. More information is online. And also, the 2023 UN Peacekeeping Ministerial meeting is wrapping up in Ghana, in Accra, in Ghana. High-level representatives from 91 countries have expressed their political commitment to UN peacekeeping and made concrete pledges to strengthen its effectiveness. The pledges will help fill gaps such as new air assets, police and military with special skills, including quick reaction forces and rapidly deployable units, as well as improved surveillance, reconnaissance, and explosives and ordnance disposal. Delegations committed to deploying more women to peacekeeping operations, including in leadership roles, also made commitments to prevent and robustly respond to misconduct, to support new mental health services, the digital transformation of peacekeeping, and strategic communications. Jean-Pierre Lacroix, the head of peacekeeping, spoke today, and he said the pledges will help peacekeeping adapt to growing challenges and threats. Also reiterated, securing sustainable peace requires a consistent, active, and united engagement of member states. A quick update from what's going on at COP in Dubai. The UN Environment Program, along with the governments of France and Morocco, launched the Buildings Breakthrough Initiative. This seeks to accelerate the transformation of the building sector, which accounts for 21% of global greenhouse gas emissions, with a view to making the near zero emissions and climate resilient buildings the new normal by 2030. 27 countries have so far pledged their commitments to the Building Breakthrough. The new initiative aims to strengthen international collaboration, to decarbonize the building sector, and to make clean technologies and sustainable solutions the most affordable, accessible, and attractive option to all regions by 2030. And earlier today in Geneva, Volker Turk, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, spoke ahead of Human Rights Day, which will be observed on Sunday and which marks the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. He said that conflicts and crises stalking us today should be a wake-up call for the international community, that failure to respect human rights results in instability, suffering, and more inequality. His statement was online, and our friends at UNICEF across the street tell us that a new data published today shows that more than 1 in 5 children live in poverty in 40 of the world's richest countries. UNICEF warns that for most children, this means they may grow up without enough nutritious food, clothes or school supplies, or a warm place to call home. The agency calls on governments and stakeholders to urgently expand social protection for children and to ensure they have access to basic quality services like childcare and free education. That report is online. And programming note, tomorrow, the Secretary General's high-level advisory body on artificial intelligence will be meeting in person for the first time here, and that will take place at headquarters here tomorrow, December 7th, and also on the 8th. As a reminder, the AI advisory body will publish its interim report by the end of this year. Its preliminary recommendations will focus on assessing the full range of AI risks, challenges, among other things. Looking ahead, the AI body will also engage with all stakeholders and looks forward to receiving constructive feedback, following which its findings and recommendations will be refined and a final report presented mid-year mid-2024, excuse me. If any of you are interested in speaking to any members of the AI advisory body, I think those details were shared with you via electronic correspondence. Sherwin.
Steph, thanks. Good afternoon. Perhaps can you explain the justification behind the invocation of Article 99, right? The letter doesn't contain anything new. It's bringing to the Council's attention a matter that has the Council's attention already. It reiterates what the Secretary General himself has said, what Volker Turk has said, what Seema Bahus, Martin Griffiths, and the list goes on in terms of UN officials speaking to these issues. So what do you expect this letter to do, change? What's its impact going to be?
That it will be a push to the Security Council and to the international community to push for what the Secretary General has been calling for, which is a humanitarian ceasefire. I think he is invoking one of the few powers that the Charter gives him. So I think it is, whichever way you see it, a very dramatic constitutional move by the Secretary General of the United Nations. The actual invocation of Article 19 has not happened in decades. A number of letters have invoked threats to international peace and security, but the actual invocation of the article hasn't happened. I think we're getting to a point of near paralysis of our humanitarian operations in a place where 15,000 people have reportedly already died, where 130 of our colleagues have died. He does not use the word catastrophe lightly, and we very much hope that the Security Council will take his call to heed.
But my argument is he's made this call before time and time again. I'm just wondering what difference Article 99 is going to make here, whether it's a constitutional...
Let's hope. I mean, within the constitutional context of the United Nations, it's a very dramatic move. I mean, we understand that the perception from the outside world may be a little different. But for us, it is a very powerful move on behalf of the Secretary General, and we hope that members of the Security Council will be moved by it, and we hope the international community will be moved by it to push and put in place a humanitarian ceasefire.
But it's essentially there to bring attention to an issue that the Council has the Council's attention already. So I don't understand what the point is.
Well, the point is to push a little bit more. Pamela, then Deji.
Thanks, Steph. Just to push this one notch further, on Article 99's invocation, to clarify, would the Secretary General, is he asking for a resolution or a product or a measure from the Security Council on this? As Sherwin was saying, he has called for it before. What precisely does Article 99, is he calling for a resolution?
Well, I think the letter, to me, the letter is pretty clear. Also, what I said to you at the beginning, we would like to see a call by the Security Council for a humanitarian ceasefire. We would like to see the international community and those who are involved in the fighting actually agree to a humanitarian ceasefire. Deji.
So I'm going to have another follow-up on that letter. I'm sorry. Well, first of all, does that letter mean that the Security Council could set up a meeting by the request of the Secretary General on the exactly the same issue they discussed many times?
We do. I do expect I think one could expect the Security Council to meet this week, and the Secretary General to address them on this very
So
issue.
that meeting is requested by the Secretary General. Can we say that?
I think let's wait for the meeting to be scheduled, but it is important for the Secretary General to address the Security Council in this regard.
So we talk a lot about this meaning of the Article 99 letter, but to me, I just want to ask: does this also somehow mean that the Secretary General is dissatisfied with what the Security Council's move now?
Well, have you? I think you've been here in this room. You've heard me. I hope you've listened to me. I don't think you've seen anyone here heap praise on.
But this is
in
a
that
stronger
direction.
language.
It is very much stronger language.
Yeah.
Which is my point.
And also in that letter, it mentioned the resolution 2712. Just now, I asked the ambassador of the ambassador of Palestine. I said, "Do you think that resolution has been implemented or not?" And he said, "Not yet." So, what does the Secretary General's view on the implementation of the resolution 2712?
Along with Venezuela, delivered a fairly detailed report on the implementation of that resolution. So I don't think much has changed since then. Ephraim.
Thank you so much. Just a quick follow-up on that, and then another question. You said he doesn't use the word catastrophe lightly. The word catastrophe has been used since the very first week to describe what the Palestinians are going through. And since the resumption of the war, actually people are running out of words to describe what the Palestinians are going through. So, quick question. Why hasn't he invoked this article before? What took him so long? What was he waiting for?
Well, I think the line of questioning is, why does this matter? It doesn't really matter. And why has he waited so long to do something that, right? I think the Secretary, so I will leave you guys to debate that. I think the Secretary General has been extremely clear, has been involved. Everything is done in a sense in a methodical way. One doesn't invoke this article lightly. I think given the situation on the ground and the risk of complete collapse, not only of our humanitarian operations, but of civil order, it's something that he felt needed to be done now.
The former Irish President, Mary Robinson, of the Elders, has said that if the United States doesn't restrain Israel, it will own the problem. Does the Secretary General share this assessment? Does he believe the United States can, President Biden can stop this war?
It's not for him to comment on that. I think the Secretary General has been very clear on his calls to the Israelis, to Hamas, and to all those who may have influence over the parties that are fighting.
So he doesn't believe like
That's
many
not,
people believe?
he's not
No,
here
it's
to
the
provide
United
color
States.
commentary.
It's the only key ally of Israel.
The United
It's not-
States, the United States and others are play a very important role in trying to, in hopefully bringing an end to this conflict. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Steph. Follow up on the letter as well. You just mentioned like it is a very powerful move, and it's one of the few powers that the charter gives the SG. Given this situation, like, does that mean that the SG, by taking this move, is exhausting all his assets? Like, there's nothing else he can do on this matter?
I think this, in terms of the charter, I think it's arguably the most important invocation, given it's really the only sort of authority that the charter gives to the Secretary General. I mean, if you look at the charter, you know, it describes the Secretary General basically as the chief administrative officer. So, constitutionally, it is, in my opinion, the most powerful tool that he has. It doesn't mean that he's exhausted everything that he could possibly, you know, that there always remains other things that can be efforts that can be done, and he will continue in that direction. Nabil.
So I'll ask again about the 130 UNRWA personnel who have been killed in Gaza until now. Is the SG planning to take any action on the investigation, on anything about the justice
I think
for the
I think
for
one
the
can
victims?
expect once this conflict ends, that there will be decisions taken.
Why he will wait until the conflict
Well, because you
ends?
can't.
It
I mean,
may
you know,
take
the
weeks or
invocation of
months.
boards of inquiries and investigation, you need access on the ground and things. So there will be movements, but right now our focus is on the humanitarian work.
In previous cases, like when UN personnel were killed before, what kind of action was taken?
There were
for
usually
that?
boards of inquiry.
And last question about the monitoring mechanism on the 2712 resolution. Is he planning to provide options to the Security Council anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that is in the works. Dawn.
Thanks, Steph. I have a follow-up on Syria. I had asked you maybe like a month ago, the Commission of Inquiry for Syria, when they released their report in September, requested for the UN's response to the earthquake in Syria to be investigated. Do you know of any such inquiry or investigation taking place?
What was asked a month ago seems a lifetime, but thank you for renewing your question.
Okay. And my second question is, yesterday at the State Department briefing, the spokesperson said that the U.S. has made it clear to Israel that they can't conduct operations in the south of Gaza the same way they did in the north. And then he went on to say that it's too early to tell. It's too early for the U.S. to assess how Israel's operation in the south is going. And when I hear that, I hear there's a huge space between what the UN is saying, what the Secretary General is saying, and what the U.S. is saying. I know now with this letter that the Secretary General has sent to Security Council, I mean, what are the chances of anything changing if the U.S. isn't even... I mean, yesterday Martin Griffiths in an interview called the situation in southern Gaza apocalyptic.
I can't pronounce that word either, but I understand what you're saying.
There's a huge space.
Well, I mean, I think everybody is, you know, I can't speak to the way others or, you know, outside of this organization are assessing it. We are getting reports, and I think our colleagues at UNRWA and World Food Program and WHO have been giving very vivid reports of what is going on and the violence that people in Gaza are facing. How others are interpreting it, I can't speak to that.
But is the Secretary General being heard by the U.S.? Are they listening, or are they just kind of...
Secretary General is being heard by many, and we hope by all. Yvonne.
Has anybody on the Security Council responded so far?
Not that I'm aware of. But
Any pushback?
Well, I mean, pushback in terms of the letter not being accepted. I mean, the letter was received and distributed. It was not returned to sender. The Secretary General will be speaking to council members in the next, today and in the next day by phone and in person.
Okay, I have another question. Next week is the anniversary of the killing of Irish peacekeeper Private Sean Rooney. I've asked in this room a number of times about the results of the UN investigation into his death. I understand that the findings have been passed to the Irish authorities. The Irish authorities told me they can't release them because it's an internal UN investigation. Can you share the findings with me?
I have nothing to share with you at this point, but we will revert. Ibtisam, then Linda.
Given the fact that the U.S. and other countries are delivering weapons to the Israeli government, does the Secretary General believe that, given the situation, the catastrophic situation he is describing, that this arm delivery should stop?
Can you repeat the last part?
If he believes that the U.S. and other countries who are delivering arms to Israel should stop these delivery.
Well, as in any conflict, we don't, it's not more weapons that are needed. It's more of a commitment for us to get a humanitarian ceasefire.
So does he believe that the weapon delivery should stop or not?
That's the answer. I mean, I think I answered your question. At least I think I answered your question.
Well, I don't. But
Okay, but we'll leave it
we
at-
need a more clear
Is any conflict?
language.
We do not want to see more violence. We want to see a humanitarian ceasefire. Ms. Fasulo. And then we'll go to the screen.
Thank you, Steph. Given that the relationship, it seems, between the Secretary General and Israel is not at its highest point, and Israel has asked for the SG to resign, there's been criticism over what's considered a late response in terms of condemning the killings and rapes of women in Israel. So I was wondering what kind of communication is going on between the two parties at this juncture? And also, what kind of role is the UN playing, for example, in trying to get the hostages released?
We continue to have daily interaction with the Israeli authorities, mainly through the coordinator, Kogat, and others, in order to pursue our aim to get more aid into Gaza, to pursue our aim for humanitarian ceasefire. Tor Venezuelan continues his contacts at the political level with the Israelis, with the Qataris, with the Americans, with the Egyptians, and others in our efforts for the full implementation, for the release and unconditional release of all hostages. Okay, let's go to the screen. Iftikhar, then Joe.
Thank you, Steph. I may be wrong, but was Kurt Waldheim the last Secretary General to invoke Article 99 in the Gulf War?
Was that for East Pakistan?
Pardon?
Was that about East Pakistan?
No, this was Gulf War.
No, we will go back. There have been a number of letters through the years invoking threats to to international peace and security. But I will tell you exactly when the last invocation was of a letter that mentioned Article 99. I believe it was in 1971, but we will check further.
But Kurt
But we'll-
did.
We will check. Iftikhar, I'm already walking on quicksand here, so I will check further.
I see. Secondly, before invoking Article 99, did the Secretary General, apart from his own advisor, consult members of the Security Council?
Has he what?
Did he also consult about?
I mean, the Secretary General is in regular contacts with members of the Security Council.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Joe, then Jordan. Mr. Klein? All right, well, let's go. Jordan, you go ahead.
Yes, Steve, I have to follow up on Article 99, and please correct me if I'm wrong. What I understood from the letter and the article is that the Security Council is obligated to meet with the SG to hear his concerns, and any product coming from the Security Council has to be under Chapter 7, if I'm right or wrong.
The Security Council will decide what it does and what articles it invokes.
Okay,
So-
and my second question on Article 100 B. How the UN, I know the SG is the custodian of the charter, how are they going to deal with any violators of Article 100B?
I'm going to ask somebody to read out Article 100B to me. If you're going to invoke the article, you might as well read it out, Jordan. Otherwise, you clearly did not come prepared.
Well, it says that all countries has to respect the SG and his employees.
Yes, Article 100, yes.
Yeah. this
Yes,
is
I mean,
why-
except
if
in this
someone
room, clearly.
Yeah, so when if someone violates this article, member state, what the SG can do?
Well, I think the SG's powers and authorities over member states is found in the charter. And if you find any authority of the Secretary General over member states in the charter, let me know. Yes, go ahead, and then I'm going to call it a day.
Hi, yeah. So can you give us an update on the visa status of Lynn Hastings?
Yeah, and I will take another question apparently from the screen, I'm told. Yes, I can tell you that we deeply regret and we're concerned regarding the decision by the Israeli authorities not to renew Lynn Hastings' visa, who, as you know, serves as the Deputy Special Coordinator, Resident Coordinator, and Humanitarian Coordinator for the UN in the occupied Palestinian territory. That visa is set to expire on the 20th of December. We have asked the Israelis to reconsider their decision. As I've said here repeatedly, the Secretary General has full confidence in the way Ms. Hastings has been doing her job. And again, we express our disappointment and shock at the targeted and personal attacks that have come on her. She's been acting as an independence, neutrality, and impartiality, as she should. I will also say that the non-renewal of visas of staff appointed by the Secretary General is inconsistent with the Charter of the UN, as well as with the privileges and immunities according to UN officials, and could also disrupt the humanitarian engagement and operations at this critical juncture.
And do you know where she's based currently? Oh, sorry.
All right, hold on. Please stay muted. She is currently in Jerusalem, and obviously she will leave before her visa expires, because unless there's a change of the decision, because we don't we're not going to overstay the visas, and her functions will be filled after she leaves by an acting humanitarian and resident coordinator until a full-time replacement arrives. She will not be working remotely. Okay. Sorry?
Can I,
Yeah, go ahead. Ibtisam and then Pam. But you,
okay, so just to follow up on visa issues, the Human Rights Council personnel, international, they had they have been having visas. They were not having visas by the Israeli authorities for years now. The question is if this changed or not.
no, I'm not aware that it has. We should check with our colleagues in the Human Rights Office. Pam?
And just what was the reason that Israel gave on the non?
You should ask them.
Visa.
But
they didn't give
but
you.
you should ask. You should,
No,
you,
we
no,
will,
but
but-
it's not for me to repeat what they've said or to speak on their behalf.
But will do. But you were given a reason.
We were informed.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And then Margaret.
Thank you, Stéphane. So I just want to clarify something really quickly, and then I'll have a question. My understanding is that with Article 99, the Secretary General is asking the Security Council to do something, or at least to make a clear stance on the issue of the attacks in Gaza and the Palestinian people, and that this is one of his, as you've said, one of the few constitutional powers that he holds, and one of the few times that he can make a direct stance or take some direct action. Is that correct? That's my understanding so far.
Yeah, I mean, we've sent out by email the kind of the introduction and the letter. So
Yes.
yeah.
What I would like to know, I guess, is what will happen if this letter and the invocation of Article 99 does not achieve the intended effect.
I mean, what will happen? What is happen? I mean, forget the the legislative process. Is that we fear that that without a humanitarian ceasefire extremely soon, there will be even greater suffering on a terrifying scale in Gaza.
But I think he mentioned that the Secretary General has other means or has other powers.
Well, I mean,
that
his
he could
other means
invoke.
are the means that he's been using, which is diplomatic and contacts and discussions. Within the charter, we are where we are.
Right. Thank you.
Margaret Bashir.
Thank you, Steve. There have been near daily verbal attacks on the UN by Israeli officials, including the ambassador here, from the Secretary General on down, Dr. Tedros, UN Women. UNRWA has come in for a lot of attacks. And as a result, a lot of social media comments have also attacked UN and UN officials when some officials post about it. So has the Secretary General spoken with any Israeli official, the ambassador, anyone about this? And is this campaign against the UN undermining your work and putting your people in danger?
I think it's social media campaigns, and we've seen it in other contexts as well, targeting the UN. Can have real life impact, and they do put people at risk. They put people's lives at risks, and it does have a risk of undermining our work in certain areas, and we've made that clear. Okay, Michelle and Joe, and then Basta.
Hey, Steph, thank you. Just on the letter, as everyone knows, nothing sort of seems to surprise the Security Council. And I know you've said the Secretary General is going to reach out to council members in the coming days, but what conversations has he already had with the United States or any US officials on invoking Article 99 and what he expects from them?
There's nothing for me to share with you at this point on that. Mr. Klein, and then we're going to go.
Okay, I could finally speak here. Have an echo. Hang on, jeez. Okay. Question is, why did the Secretary General invoke Article 99 regarding Ukraine?
It is up to the Secretary General to decide when it is appropriate to do so. He made that decision. But I think, as you will recall, he was anything but silent or inactive on the situation in Ukraine. Thank you all. Well, yeah, I guess.